So next up, podcast listeners, California stops the exodus. So get this. You're going to love this. You know how California has lost one or two congressmen after the redistricting and the reapportionment in the United States of the population because California is actually losing population for the first time in its history? Well, they are losing population because of the bad policies and because of the way the place is being run. It's being run into the ground, of course, by the California legislature and, of course, by Gavin Newsom. But California has found a way to stop the exodus. Now they're going to have lots of people moving back into California. You want to know why? Because California is going to pay you reparations. Why wouldn't you move back then? Or why wouldn't you move there for the first time? So what is this? This is The Blaze? Yeah, it's theblaze.com. And by the way, it's also in the San Francisco Chronicle. It's in papers across America. We're pulling out of here because those other papers, of course, are trying to give you the woke definition of what they're trying to do. We just want to give you the facts. Activists demands California dole out at least $830,000 per person in racial reparations.
Is it for all those Californian slave owners?
That's right, for all the Californians, the people that were previous slaves in California, because it was not a slave state, by the way. Quote, comply or it's going to be a serious backlash, is what one of these folks said. Now, remember, people are in front of this committee and they're testifying and so forth, saying, yeah, I want my money. You know, there's this commercial on TV, at least in the greater Washington, D.C. area called J.G. Wentworth's. And they'll cash your check for you, but they'll charge you like an outrageous fee. So they're like usurers, basically. And it's like, I want my money now. And that's what this looks like. It is so gross to watch. So you have people literally saying what I just said. And don't go posting, oh, you said something and it was wrong or it was discriminatory. No such thing. That's literally what these people are saying. These people meaning whoever has the guts to go in front of this group saying, you owe me money. So the California Reparations Task Force recently claimed that the state's black residents whose ancestors were in the U.S. from 1933 to 1977 are owed over $500 billion in reparations for housing discrimination. Some activists are now saying that that's not even enough. So, look, ladies and gentlemen, we could talk about this issue forever, this issue of reparations that the Democrats have brought up. Why do you think the Democrats have brought this up? So I have a different perspective on this. They brought it up to, of course, distract everybody, naturally. That's a given. But they've also brought up the issue of reparations in California and in other states. And I won't be surprised in my state of Maryland if the legislature doesn't try to take that up as well in the 2023 session for a variety of reasons, which I'll describe in a little while. But in California, they're already taking up the issue of reparations because they have a task force to talk about it and discuss it. And the task force will, of course, make recommendations to the legislature and to the governor about how to pay people off for more Democrat votes, which is really what this is about. We live in a period of time in American history when there are greater opportunities for people, no matter how you look, than ever before, than any other country on this planet. Knowing this, more and more black voters are voting Republican. More and more Hispanic voters are voting Republican. And that's because as more individuals move into the middle class and excel and see that there are possibilities to have an even better and better life, and that life is not dependent upon how they look, because we live in a colorblind society, that is a good thing. That's aspirational. That is what the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln and Reagan, are all about. The Democrats are so incredibly cynical that they realize that they can only hold on to the black population as a voting bloc if they pay them off and they try to show that it is the Republicans who don't want to pay people off for votes. And you want to know something? I'm happy to say that. I don't believe in paying people off for votes. It's wrong. But California, which has had this exodus for quite some time, exodus, by the way, of people of all color, it doesn't really matter because of the way the state is run as we started out this podcast or this segment of the podcast. Those individuals will never be back, but there will be plenty of other people that live in Chicago and I'm sure Maryland, maybe, Connecticut, New York, wherever, that are going to move to California for this check. For this check. Do you see that this is the problem, ladies and gentlemen? Remember, Gavin Newsom had stimulus checks to the citizens of California right before his recall election. So he paid people off right before his election so that he would get reelected in a recall election, which he was reelected. And now, of course, California is not satisfied with being an overwhelmingly Democrat state with very few alternative voices. And if you do have an alternative voice in California, you know it's completely stamped out in the legislature and elsewhere. And now what they want to do is to completely extinguish any dissenting voices by bringing in as many individuals who are on the state's dole as possible. So once again, the California Reparations Task Force recently claimed that the state's black residents whose ancestors were in the United States, not California, by the way, but in the United States, which is why so many individuals are going to move to California if this indeed happens. As long as you were here between 1933 and 1977, you're owed over $500 billion in reparations. Why 1933 to 1977? I have no idea. Self-proclaimed grassroots hip-hop organizer Dion Jenkins, who recommended close to $1 million in housing reparations on Wednesday, said in a recent interview, either they're going to comply or it's going to be a serious backlash. In other words, he is threatening that if you don't give me my $1 million in reparations, then there's going to be a backlash. This is what Democrats have created in California. They've created this environment that is actually dangerous because you're saying to people, you are entitled to this bundle of money. And then they get it in these individuals are getting it into their heads that, yes, I am entitled to this bundle of money, regardless of any facts whatsoever, regardless of the current opportunities that they have or the opportunities that they have let pass them by. Now they're entitled, and now they're going to start potentially hurting people because they don't get this? That's dangerous. The Blaze previously reported that the 9-member Reparations Task Force formed via legislation by Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom blamed the wealth gap in the state on redlining and racist housing covenants that segregated Black California residents in the 50s and 60s. Black households have a median wealth of $24,000, whereas white households have a median wealth of $188,200. So now this is where they're going with this. They're saying that you had to live in the U.S. from 33 to 77 during the period of housing discrimination, and that's where they're going with this. They're not even talking about slavery. So I'm sure the next thing that'll come, Chris, is that they'll say, well, now first it's housing discrimination, then it's food discrimination, and then it's going to be slavery. Then we're gonna have all these different kinds of reparation task forces, all to be able to buy votes and to divide the American people in the 21st century when no one cares about how you look. The Blaze reported this. Black households have a median wealth of $24,000, whereas white households have a median wealth of $188,200 in California. The task force determined that Black California residents are owed $569 billion, or $223,200 each. I like that, Chris. Incredible. So, Task Force Chairman Kamala Moore indicated that this figure has not yet been firmed up, reported the Washington Times. But on Wednesday, the task force held the first part of a 2-day meeting in Oakland City Hall to discuss payout parameters and to decide how the taxpayer money will be distributed to the descendants of those subjected to housing discriminations in the 21st century. So, as you can see, there is a reparations task force in California. They're going to be drawing lots of new citizens in California looking for their $223,000 check. And no sooner will that check come in than those individuals will be coming back, I have no doubt, and asking for even more money because the initial batch didn't cover what they really thought it would cover. So get ready. We're going to continue to report on this. And as we do, I'm sure we're going to find out how the Democrat Party is continuing to, in their own way, in my opinion, enslave the Black community by making so many in the Black community believe that the only way forward is to get this kind of payoff. And that is the most unfair part about the system, because a truly aspirational politician would tell you about all the opportunities that are right in front of you. Because why is it, ladies and gentlemen, so many immigrants come to the United States and they become entrepreneurs, or they become successful employees, or they become teachers or doctors or lawyers, whatever. They become really successful. This country and all of the fruits of this country are available to all American citizens who really want to put forth their best foot and try to make a better life for themselves. And that does not involve handouts. And it just shows you how out of control government has gotten. And that's the last word for Mark and the Millennials. Thank you for joining me. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you to our producer, Christopher Hopkins. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Twitter 2.0, YouTube, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, Rumble, and our website. See you next time.